Hey guys and gals, Mike here from Trail 7. Got a really exciting day today. We have Alpine's dash camera and cabin camera. We have Alpine's front camera, and today we're going to show you how to integrate these cameras into your i509 Jeep JK. So let me tell you what we have here. We have Alpine's DVR C320R and we have Alpine's C2600FD. This is your front camera. Both of these are super easy to plug and play into the Alpine i509. So let's walk through the C320R and let me tell you what we have here. So out of the box, these are all the cables that come with it. Let me run through some of the cables that come that you're not going to need, and I'll show you the cables that you are going to need, and of course we'll show you how easy this is to install and integrate into the i509 into your JK. If you're not going to connect it to the i509, they do provide another power source here, but we're not going to get into this, so you're not going to need this. The dash cam is going to be included. They also provide a cabin cam. We're going to mount this on the windshield facing the cabin, so that way it'll be a cabin camera. This can be also mounted, if you have a hardtop, onto the back rear glass facing the cabin cam. It can be mounted facing outside the backs, where you can have a front dash cam as well as the back cam. There's a couple of different configurations for this camera here. Where we're going to install it is right on the front windshield facing back into the cabin. I'll show you as a safety measure for security. This also has provided the long extension if you're going to install this to the back glass, which we're not going to install it there, so you're not going to need this adapter here. This is the harness to attach directly to the camera, and this is the main harness that's going to attach to the i509. We'll show you how to integrate that and what's part of that is needed as well. Something that's not included here that you will need if you're going to attach it to the head unit is this piece here. So in your i509 JK or JL, because this is also applicable to that setup, is this little harness here. It's not going to come with these bullet connectors. It's actually going to come just like this piece here. So go ahead and grab that out of your box. If you don't have this still from your factory box, don't worry about it. I'll show you once we get into the install the alternative way to hardwire this in. So let's go ahead and use it as if we do have that. You're going to want to pick up a couple of bullet connectors. Male and female bullet connectors. Use the red ones because this is for the smaller diameter gauge wire. You're going to attach the female bullet connectors to the end here like we've done so. On the main harness that comes with the dash cam, you're also going to attach the male bullet connectors as we've done here, and I'll show you where that would attach to. This is the harness that comes with the DVR C320R. If you notice on the very end here, there are 3 wires. There's a black one, there's a red one, and there's a yellow one. Since this isn't just applicable to the i509 JK head unit, you can install this with other means of powering and grounding, etc. That's what this harness is prepared for. We're going to cut these 3 wires off of here, the black, the red, and the yellow. You're going to attach your male bullet connectors, just as we've done here. And in the end, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have your adapter with your 3 bullet connectors on the black, the red, and the yellow. And you're going to have this connector with the female bullet connectors on the black, the red, and the yellow. And that's the only prep that's needed. Everything else is 100% plug and play. Couple of tools that you'll need to get started with this is a Phillips head screwdriver. You'll need a 7mm socket. You need a panel removal tool. A couple of zip ties for the front camera. I recommend some electrical tape also, so that way you can wrap the connectors when you're done under the hood. Now for the front camera, the model number for this is HCE C2600FD. What comes in this box is the main wire harness that's going to attach to the head unit. This comes pre-terminated with the connector that attaches right to the i509. It's awesome. The camera itself, which comes in 2 pieces, this attaches to this. It comes with the bracket. I'll show you how to put the bracket together. A couple of mounting screws, and a couple of other miscellaneous pieces in case you wanted to install this somewhere else other than we recommend. You can of course install this anywhere you want to. So now speaking of the bracket, I'll go ahead and show you how to put that together, how we recommend putting it together so you can attach it to the front of the grill. So let's go ahead and get that started. This is the only time that you're going to need the screwdriver. So this comes with 2 pieces inside this baggie here. You're also going to use the silver screws inside this baggie here. You're going to feed the wire through the first bracket here. All right, so after you get the cable through the hole here, this mounting bracket's going to fit right on top here to where Alpine and the flat part of the bracket's going to sit like this. So now let's go ahead and get that screwed in using the little silver screws. There's 2 screws that go in here. So you're going to put this bracket on here. What's going to happen is this is going to swivel to the top, and then it'll allow you to be able to swivel this to where you can install it in a flat mounted spot. You can install it to where it's hanging down below. We're going to install it in the front grille here in between right below Jeep. So it's going to have to mount this way. And this is a sticky tape on here, so you'll be able to peel this off, stick it right in there. And there are a couple of holes in there also, so where you can screw it in if you want to. We don't feel the need to, you don't need to. It's 3M tape, it's pretty sticky. So screw the pieces on the side here as well. I wouldn't tighten it down with the screwdriver yet because you're going to need to find that sweet spot. So just go ahead and leave that on there loose, and you can tighten it down right before you install it. All right, so that's it. The front camera is prepped. That's literally it. It's plug this into there, plug this into the head unit. We'll show you where. The dash camera is prepped. Let's go ahead and start getting it installed. All right, now we're in the Jeep. Let's go ahead and start getting this disassembled so we can install the dash camera. So I'm going to remove the bezel of the i509, then I'm going to pull the head unit out. I'm also going to clean the glass. I recommend some glass cleaner. The dash cam is going to mount right up here to the right side of the rear view mirror. I like this spot because as the driver, you don't see the camera. Let's go ahead and clean the glass over there, remove the bezel, remove the screen. I'm also going to have to remove this dash piece, and I'm going to have to remove the bottom panel here as well underneath the steering wheel. That's going to allow for me to have access to where I'm going to run the cabling, because that cabling is going to come from the top of the windshield here. This trim panel piece is going to come out. It's going to run along the side, and that cabling is going to run along here. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Let's start with the glass cleaning first. All right, now the glass is clean. Let's go ahead and get started with the disassembly of everything else. So I'm going to remove the bezel and the head unit. As a reminder, the window switch control module needs to come out here. If you don't have electric windows, you have a tray here. That tray still needs to come out as well. So again, we're going to remove the bezel, the head unit, the window control module here, the top dash piece, which has 2 screws on this side, 2 7mm screws on this side, on each side here, as well as this panel underneath the steering wheel. So let's go ahead and get started with the window control module. I will say one thing here is that if you installed the i509 per hour instructions and you installed the microphone on top of the steering wheel, be careful when you remove this dash piece that it doesn't knock the microphone off. Now that the screws are out, I'm going to pull the head unit out, and I'm going to flip this around so it's balanced up on top here, so that way I can access all of the ports really easily. I recommend also using like a microfiber cloth or something like that just to put over the front of the screen, whether you're going to put the screen in your lap or if you're going to put it up top here, just to protect it so it doesn't scratch up. So this pulls right out. You can flip this right on top here just like that and put something on top of there. So it's exposed all of the wires that you need to get to. This is the main harness that connects back to the bezel, so you can leave that aside. All right, once you get this out, the connectors that you're interested in grabbing for the dash camera, this one here that's labeled aux power, you need to get the yellow RCA that's labeled drive recorder on the same bunch of wires as the RCA. You also need the brown and white cable, and it's LIN, L-I-N. So those are the only 3 connectors that you need for the dash camera. And what I was talking about earlier is if you have that piece from the i509 that you can just plug right into the aux power, great. This piece here that we attach the bullet connectors to, this is going to attach right into here, and then this is going to attach to the harness. Now if you don't have this piece, if you can't find it, it's no big deal. You are going to have to cut this connector off and just go ahead and attach your bullet connectors onto this part here, and you can attach that then to the dash camera harness. The other 2 connectors are of course already plugged for you, the RCA and the LIN connector. So let's go ahead and run the dash camera wire. You can let the harness just fall on the floor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the panel removal tool and I'm going to, from this side here, I'm going to pry this piece off. There are 2 clips that this panel piece here will pop down. I'm going to run the main harness through the panel trim here. I'm going to pull that harness down and I'm going to run it over to this side of the mirror. I'm going to let that hang over on this side of the mirror with the camera attached to it this side. So let's go ahead and do that. Next, what I want to do is I want to attach the camera. Snaps right in. It can only snap in one way. Next, what I want to do is run the separate wire for the cabin camera. I'm going to run the side that has the micro USB through the top and down. This is what's going to connect to the cabin camera. And go ahead and attach the cabin camera. I'm going to leave that to the side over here for now. And now that the dash camera is attached here, we can pull this part of the wiring back and let this hang over on this side. And leave yourself about that much room, and we can manage that later on once we're done. We're going to tuck this wire in between the trim piece here. I'm going to run the wire along here, pull the trim piece down enough to be able to tuck the wires inside the A-pillar trim over here. And I'm just going to tuck it along inside here. And don't snap it back until after you attach the cameras to the windshield. There's a trim piece here that I'm going to have to remove. Go ahead and pop this off. Just push it with one finger. This has come off a couple of times. We've done a couple of installs here, so it comes off pretty easy. You can push it with a finger and use your panel tool to pop it right off. Just take that out. And just run the rest of the wires down the A-pillar trim here. And I'm just going to pull the trim piece out a little bit, just enough to get the wire inside there. You can use your panel tool if you need to push it into it. Now there's a connection that needs to be made over on this side of the harness. This is the wire that came off of the cabin camera. It has this connector on here. Find the female side of that on the master harness, and you're just going to attach that right into that. Now there's a lot of wiring here, but there's plenty of space underneath the panel here. This is where we're going to manage all of this, and we're going to tuck it inside. But I'm going to wait to do that, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the wiring for the front camera. And since the front camera is also easy plug and play into the i509, I'm going to run both those wires together through the dash piece. Let's go ahead and run the wire to the front and mount the front camera. So literally the front camera install is 2 connectors. This is the wire that's going to attach to the i509, and this is the camera, of course, as well. What we're going to do is for this install, I'm going to start it in the front and I'm going to work my way backwards. We're going to install through, there's a little slot right here in between the outside panel. We're going to feed the wire through here, and the wire is going to come up through here. We're going to pull this tab out of this. The wire is going to go back behind here, and the wire is going to go up through here. You do have another method of installation. There's the firewall, which is this part right here. You can push this firewall out and you can feed the wire this way if you so choose. We just found it easier to go through this way, but again, you have options. There's also another firewall that's underneath the footwell if you want to go that way. The cable is long enough, you can route the wire however you want to. This is the route that we're going to go for the video. It's the easiest, and that's where we're going to do it. So we're going to start in the front and we're going to work our way backwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the 2 harnesses together, these 2 harnesses, and these are literally just plug and play right in. All right, so where we're going to install this is right underneath the Jeep logo. Again, this is the universal install. You can mount this thing anywhere you want to. It does have a swivel adapter on here, bracket on here, so you can mount it anywhere you want to. I didn't tighten these down yet because we're going to have to dial it in first, but it does have a sticky 3M tape on here, which I'm just going to stick right on the middle piece there. All right, so for the wire routing, the wire, of course, is going to go through here. It's going to through the clip, and I'm just going to route the wiring along, really just find the best path that goes along the engine way without getting in the way of any of the hood clamps. When it closes, you don't pinch the wire. So start with routing this up first. Make sure that when you go underneath here, you come all the way through this bar, and make sure you do not go into this hole here. Don't run the wire here. That's where the hood latch comes down into. If you run the wire into there, it's probably going to pinch the wire, probably going to snap, break, kink the wire. So do not run the wire up through this slot here, this little hole. Stay away from that hole. Go ahead and pull this all the way through. Now, what I would suggest to do is to wrap a couple pieces of electrical tape around the connectors here. That just helps to protect that. All right, so go ahead and pull that up. I wouldn't stick this on there yet because there's some screws you need to get to. So you just find out where the mounting point is, which is going to be right there. You can just let that hang down. So if you wanted to just go ahead and zip tie this onto something, just to hold it into place. And now we're just going to find the path of least resistance going around here. I'm going to remove this bolt right here to 10 millimeter because I want to remove this clip here. I just want to be able to get this underneath there. I think it's just a better, cleaner looking way versus going around here. You can go around here also. Whatever's up, it's up to you. And there you go. Now that we have it run through the engine compartment, we're going to feed it through this little slot right here. Now that all of the cables are over on one side, I'm going to route them all together through the channel here. So first I'm going to remove this little grommet connector into here so that way I can route one of the cables up through and around there. All right, and then once I get all of them together up there, I'm going to route all the cables through the dash panel here on top of the speaker grill. There's a channel that kind of goes through there where it comes up on top of the steering wheel column. That wire is going to run across the top of the steering wheel column. It's going to go back into the exact same type of channel that's on the left side. It's over on the right side here. I'm going to go into that channel, and if I stick my hand inside the slot here, I can go to around the air vent, and I can kind of get my hand inside of here to where I'm going to be able to grab the other side of that, and I'm going to pull it through. It is tight. There's a lot of wires to go through, so take your time with it, but it will go through, trust me. So let's go ahead and get that done. Another note, not all of the wiring needs to go through. Only enough to reach the head unit connections, because we're going to spool up the rest of the slack here. We're going to wrap it up and we're going to tuck it inside. So really just the end connectors have to go through. If you want to start with this one first as the easiest. There you go. It easily just pulls right through. All right, both the cables are out now, and that's about as much slack as you need. We can go ahead and leave this for now. I'd like to get everything connected and buttoned up on this side before I worry about managing that cable and before I worry about managing the cable up top there. Let's go ahead and get the connections made at the head unit. All right, so I showed you earlier the connections to make for the dash cam. The one last connection for the front camera, now that this is through here. This connection here, which is from the front camera, it says front camera on it. Nicely labeled, thank you Alpine, that's fantastic. Also nicely labeled, thank you Alpine again, is the front camera wire that's on the i509. It says front camera, front camera. This is literally the only connection that's needed. And there you go, the front camera is connected. Let's go ahead and connect the 3 connections that we need to make for the dash camera. So the first one is the RCA from the dash cam harness to the back of the head unit harness. Back of the head unit harness is labeled drive recorder in. So that's connected into there. The 2 other connections is the auxiliary cable, which is the one we had to attach the bullet connectors for. So let's go ahead and attach the bullet connectors to the wire harness. We're going to go yellow to yellow, we're going to go red to red, and we're going to go black to black. Go ahead and seat those in. The auxiliary power, we've attached it to the bullet connectors as I prepped and showed you earlier. And go ahead and get this connector seated, and that's it. And the last and final connection is the LIN cable. So it's labeled LIN on the back of the head unit. And there's 2 connectors on the dash camera. You're going to use, there's a male and a female. You're going to use the male, and it's going to go to the female on the head unit. So that's it. So all the connections are made. We can go ahead and seat the head unit back into its slot. Keep this connector out. That's for the bezel. So I'm going to go ahead and get that seated in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the bezel piece on here. I'm going to turn the vehicle on. I want to make sure the cameras are all on and before we dial them in, and then I'll disconnect it and get everything buttoned up, and we'll do a full set of how we're going to position the cameras and manage the wires. Remember with the i509 you have to have the parking brake engaged in order to access the setup screen. Setup will flash a couple of times. Now we can access setup and go to function, scroll all the way down, go to dash camera, make sure the dash camera is on. You can go back, go to camera, and set it to where you have your front camera set up. So this is going to be as your front. Your camera 2 is going to be your front. This would look like if there's no camera. So camera 2 setup, front. You want to have it in the NTSC format. You can set up the guide lanes. This of course is super wonky because it's aiming at the ground. Don't worry about that. We'll align that. More or less just want to make sure that it worked. Now you can go back to the home screen. Since you have the dash camera now on, you have the dash camera icon here, and there we go. There's the dash cam, and there is also the reverse cabin cam, which again, don't worry about where it's at. We're gonna line this all up. All right, so that works, but while it's on, let's go ahead and line up where we're gonna mount the dash cam, and we're gonna put it over here to the right side. Align it with the front of the hood. And you know, the camera has a little swivel on here, so it can swivel up and down in case you need to adjust it that way. So I would find the spot you wanna mount it on, using the hood as the reference. Put the camera down a couple notches, and right there, look center if we're using that line with the center of the hood. Now to peel our 3M tape off, film cover on the camera, you can take that off of there. Go ahead and find our spot. That's on there. Pay attention to top and bottom on here. So it tells you that this is the top, right there. This can be mounted up here, and you can see the angle, and you can see what it sees. And you can mount it over on the bottom here. I think the mirror is in the way there. I don't really care for it there. You can mount it over here on this side. I mean, really, this thing can go anywhere you want it to go to. It has a fully adjustable lens. So I'm gonna put it right up there. Pretty happy with that spot there. Go ahead and put it right there. Let's go ahead and start tucking the cables up. Any access slack that you don't want up in there can of course come down. Right, now there's a bunch of slack left over here. Like I said, there's plenty of room to tuck it away here nice and neat. Next, let's go ahead to the front. Let's adjust the front camera so that's even on here. And we'll be ready to button up the dash, and I'll show you the demo of how all of this works. All right, there you go, the camera's mounted. So what we did is we set it into place to find the level adjustment, and then we tightened down the screws. I wouldn't tighten down the screws and then try to find the level adjustment, just because the screws are kind of mounted. They're back here in a wonky spot you can't get it to. However, you can install this camera anywhere you want to. It has a sticky piece on top, so once you tighten down the side, once you align it that it's straight, remove the adhesive backing and just stick it right on top there, and that'll stay in its place. Looks great. Let's go ahead and get the dash back together, and we'll show you all the systems combined. All right, guys, everything is buttoned up. The dash cam is installed. The front camera is installed. Let's go ahead and show you a couple of settings and a couple of cool things that this dash cam does. So you have continuous recording and you have incident recording. Continuous recording is just that. It's going to record continuously. It's going to go over and over the memory chip that's in the side there. This has an internal 32 gigabyte drive disk, so that continuous recording is just going to record over and over and over again. There's incident recording that cannot be recorded over, so I'll show you how to set that up so that way when you're driving, if there's an incident that occurs and it records that, it won't record over that you'll be able to retrieve that, and that'll be a hard copy for you. So let's go ahead and talk about the front camera first, since that's not a part of the dash camera. That's a separate item. We just went ahead and installed that because it kind of integrates really well with the install that we did. This is the camera button right up here, top right. That's going to activate your cameras. So there you go. It's already set up to have the front camera on here. To X out of the camera, just simply push the button. And again, at any time, whatever drive gear you're in, you can push the button and it'll go to camera. There are a couple of different options that you can set up here, which we removed the guidelines. Obviously, being a front camera, I don't think it's necessary to have the guidelines. However, if you want them, they are there for you as an option. What you can do also, you can change the view. So you can realign the view a little bit, get a little bit of a different angle. If you see how that's changing, how that is changing down to where it's kind of like a top-down view. And then there's your regular panoramic view. All right. If you wanted to remove the guidelines, or if you wanted to move the caution symbol here, it says never depend solely on camera. That'll always be there. It'll always be visible, but you can move it up to the top if you want it up to the top. So there's the front camera. Great install, super easy, plug and play, 2 cables, integrates phenomenally with the i509. Very impressed with what the i509 has to offer. You can, as we said, weeks ago when we introduced the i509, when we were here with Alpine, we said we were going to add on little bits and pieces to showcase what this thing can do for you. This is one of those head units that you have to spend a lot of time with, really, because the accessories that you can add on to it are awesome for the Jeep world. Now let's go into the dash cam. The dash cam also comes with a cabin camera, so you have 2 cameras in there. They're 1080p HD. One of them, of course, is mounted to the windshield as the front camera. One of them also is mounted to the windshield as the cabin camera. That one, as I said before, can be mounted if you have a hard top per se. You can mount it on the rear glass so it can face backwards, so you can have a rear facing, like a collision camera, or same thing for the front but for the rear. You can put it on the rear glass facing in the cab, so you can have just a different view of the cab camera, and then we chose right here. So let's show you all about that, because that has some really cool options with it. Let's go back to your home screen. We already activated it prior. I showed you how to activate it. So going into the dash cam, so this is the dash camera now, right? So this is automatically will bring you up the picture-in-picture view of the second one, which you can tap on that and it'll highlight that for you. Tap on that and it'll shrink it. Let's go into a couple different options that you have on here. Confirm that you're going into the settings. So as I said, this has continuous recording. This has incident recording. This has safety recording. This has a security measure that you can set that's parking mode. So that way when you're in park mode, you can set it to trigger activation based on motion. So we're in the Jeep world, right? We like to have our tops off, doors off. We have soft tops that get broken into. At least this way, this will trigger upon motion, so that way this will activate as a security camera, so you can catch and hopefully identify somebody that happens to unfortunately break into your Jeep. It happens, and there's a measure to make us feel a little bit more comfortable. So just to show you a couple of the neat things that this does, let's go into settings. So if you go into camera settings, you have the option of the brightness. Going into the road safety settings, this is where you're going to set up your safety camera. So your safety cameras is going to set up your incident cameras also, whether that's on or off. You want that on. Mobile speed zone. This is going to set what type of vehicle you have, so it knows to gauge whether you're in a little compact car or if you're in a big semi, a truck or a bus, sedan. We're going to call ourselves an SUV. Unfortunately, they don't have Jeep. Drive assist settings. This is just showing you different lines. Back collision guide. However, since we have our camera set in here, it doesn't really apply. Lane departure warning, that's an option. So you can have that set on either high, low, medium. This is a great one. So FCWS, which is forward collision basically. And this is just going to alert you as a sensor if it detects a vehicle rapidly approaching. BCW, which again, this is not going to apply since our camera is mounted here as a cabin camera, and a couple of more adjustments you can make to the back collision or the front departure warning, etc. What I wanted to show you here is the park setting. Super night vision, so this is telling you that you're set on for night vision. So this is the park mode. This is, again, if you were to have your camera set up this way or facing inside the cabin, this is going to be your security measure type of gig. So park mode, we want that set for sure. We want the motion detection on. There's also an energy saving. So in case it's continuously recording, that it'll shut it off before it kills your battery. I am absolutely impressed with the way that this integrates and how easily it incorporates with the harnesses, how Alpine has made everything truly plug and play. That's all we have for the dash cam, for the cabin camera, and for the front camera. If you'd like to pick up your cameras or any Alpine accessories for your Jeep, please visit us at www.trail7.com. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail.